What's up guys, and welcome back to another video covering Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. This video is going to be a follow-up video to the video I produced about a week or so ago about Infinity Energy. And in that video I explain what Infinity Energy is, or at least what I think it is, and how it links in with certain aspects of the games. Now I'm going through the comments and looking at other people's theories, thoughts, etc. and giving my feedback or my own thoughts to their thoughts. Thoughtception. Anyway, so the first comment we have is Tomline. He says, but how do they extract Infinity Energy? Plot twist. Nurse Joy leeches part of your Pokemon's Infinity Energy every time you heal. Now this is a very, I don't want to say funny, but a very awesome and little thing to think about, but it really wouldn't make sense because Nurse Joy heals your Pokemon. She doesn't take anything away. So it wouldn't make any sense for, if we assume Infinity Energy is like the life essence, or they're just the Pokemon sources of power. If she was taking it away, it wouldn't work to heal. So maybe maybe that's if they use up all their energy in battle, that's how they then faint. Whereas Nurse Joy gives them Infinity Energy. That's a possibility. That's not a possible idea, but I don't know how it would fit in and make sense. Anyway. So that's Tom Lyon's little comment there. I thought it was a little fun little idea to think about, but really it's nothing too special, no. Then, the Hidden Squid says, or points out I guess, dude, energy is never destroyed. 3,000 years ago when the ultimate weapon went off, the energy didn't just disappear, it was released into the world or whatever. That is Infinity Energy. The rocket and the other siphon the released energy. It sucks out of the air. They're reusing the Pokemon that already died. They're already dead. It's technically still a children's game. It is still a children's game, yes, but it doesn't mean they can actually throw in hints of this sort of darker side. They don't literally have to come out and say, if they came out and said, yeah, you're killing Pokemon by doing this or whatever, then that would probably not be allowed in the children's game. But they're not really saying it out straight. They're just saying about Infinity Energy and hinting at it. So it's never actually said outright that it's Infinity Energy and whatnot. This person's right about energy never being destroyed. I didn't really think about it in the first video, but energy is never destroyed. So if we assume if Infinity Energy is sort of on the same line, it has to either go into a different form or something along those lines. So if we assume it either has to be converted into something in nature or whatnot, we really don't know. But so a Pokemon, yeah, it's got Infinity Energy. Infinity Energy is like its blood almost. It courses through its veins. It's just part of it or whatever. When a Pokemon dies, what happens to that Infinity Energy? Well, let's think back to sort of a wild Pokemon, okay? If that Pokemon just dropped dead in the forest, what would happen to that Pokemon? It would just decay and it would go into the ground, much like it happens in the real world if an animal dies. They die, they decay. The bioenergy in that animal, or the Infinity Energy in that Pokemon, is converted into the soil. It's transferred into the soil and becomes another type of energy. So Infinity Energy doesn't necessarily have to stay as Infinity Energy the whole time. It can change in different forms possibly, and then change back when when a Pokemon eats leaves, for example. It might gain Infinity Energy that way. Pokemon's bodies might have some sort of mechanism that allows them to transfer normal other types of energy into Infinity Energy. It might just be like the same sort of energy as a human's bioenergy. It says literally in Sea Morval that Infinity Energy is a Pokemon's bioenergy, so it's literally the same as what we have. We eat food, we get energy from that, we excrete it out, we use it for moving around, we use it for whatever else we use it for, and that's bioenergy for us. So Infinity Energy works in a similar way for Pokemon, however it might have other capabilities, for example the ultimate weapon, etc. When the ultimate weapon went off, the energy didn't just disappear. No, it was released into the atmosphere, released into the world, and that's how some of the Mega Stones were created, Keystones were created, and also how possibly Groudon and Kyogre could possibly use that as well in some way for their primal evolution, primal reversion, whatever. It's actually natural energy they use that for, but Infinity Energy could have, the release of Infinity Energy could have been then stored as natural energy, and that might have been then triggered their primal reversion or something along those lines. So it was released into the air, okay? And this energy, where did the energy, as you said, the energy can't be destroyed, so it has to come from somewhere. Where did the ultimate weapon get the energy from? It came from, wiping out a load of Pokemon and taking the Infinity Energy from them. So, it's still there. And the rocket and the other thing, maybe the submarine or the teleport pad, siphon it. They're siphoning it out of the air. I mean, it's a fun idea, but it's really not. It's not going to work that way, because a rocket. Okay, think of how a rocket launches. It's got fuel tubes, or whatever you want to call them now, and the fuel is stored inside there. So that's how the infinity energy is used for the rocket. It's not just siphoned out of the air. They might have, collected it from the air, possibly, but there's only a certain amount of it. There's only a certain amount of this infinity energy from the ultimate weapon, and it's been 3,000 years since it went off. So we can assume a lot of it is already sort of dispersed and maybe into the atmosphere, into space, or whatever you want to call it. Maybe just gone into the ground. Maybe, as I said, been used for ground Kyogre's primal reversion or something along those lines. So I can't imagine it being like, loads around just to freely use. And obviously once that runs out, they have to find another way of getting infinity energy and storing it and whatnot. So I really just can't, the siphoning it from the air just doesn't really seem like a valid idea. And Mr. Stone from Devon would certainly know this. If he knows where it came from, he knows infinity energy was used to power the weapon, but he can't, he must know then that there's obviously a limited amount. If they were using it from the air, he knows there's a limited amount from the use of the ultimate weapon, so he would then look at other forms of getting infinity energy. And as we looked at in the Seamorval video, they actually have an energy elixir product with refined Sapphire extract, so that suggests to me even more that they were actually using Pokemon, extracting energy from Pokemon to put into drinks and whatnot. Anyway, then if we move on to Metasonic543 says, do you think Yveltal feeds on infinity energy, considering how it absorbs Pokemon and people's life forces? And then Ben J. Lever 01 says, maybe the ultimate weapon took inspiration from Yveltal, absorbing life, and also took inspiration from Xerneas as it gives Floette eternal life. Yveltal and Xerneas, they are very... I didn't actually think about this when I was doing the visual video, but they're very likely related to infinity energy. Yveltal and Xerneas are life and death. Yveltal takes away life, Xerneas gives life, as Xerneas possibly was related to AZ's eternal life, but we'll talk about that later on. So Yveltal takes it away, Xerneas gives it. So they both... Well, every Pokemon has infinity energy. We know that much, but Yveltal and Xerneas might very well have the ability to take away and give infinity energy to Pokemon. They have a stronger store of it, I guess you could say, and they can actually control how they use it, and they can direct it at other Pokemon and stuff like that. We can assume other legendaries sort of have the same sort of thing. Groudon and Kyogre have not really infinity energy, but natural energy they can take in and primal revert. So possibly that's just sort of their power there. But other Pokemon, Rayquaza obviously can Mega Evolve, so it can take on infinity energy in that form. And there are probably other legendaries, maybe Mewtwo, maybe what Team Rocket did to Mewtwo, and how maybe they had knowledge of infinity energy, or somewhat, and they sort of, did something to it somehow, and maybe that's how the Mega Stones link in with it. They gave it ability to process infinity energy more powerfully, and maybe that's how it can Mega Evolve in the movie. Without a Mega Stone, it can use the infinity energy in the surrounding atmosphere. Who knows? Anyway, that's just inspiration, just speculation. Yveltal and Xerneas are most very likely to be involved with infinity energy, and I wouldn't be surprised if they actually brought it in the final game of Generation 6 and talked about it there. But we'll see about that, I guess. Zygarde being the last member of that trio. Zygarde is known for... It's based off Yggdrasil, or based off the snake from Yggdrasil, and it goes around the roots. And basically what it does is it keeps the balance, pretty much. And this is talked about in Zygarde's Pokédex entries as well. It keeps the balance of the world. Keeps the ecosystem balanced. And maybe Zygarde's job is to control the amount of infinity energy, possibly, Maybe it controls the amount Yveltal's taking away, and controls how much Xerneas is taking, something along those lines. Or maybe it just controls infinity energy somehow, making sure there's not too much energy as infinity energy as compared to natural energy, bioenergy, etc. There's a possibility there, who knows. Anyway, then we have Pokemon Special German with a very, very long comment. Okay, let's read this, okay? Very interesting. But let me tell you what I think. I agree that infinity energy is made by the life energy of Pokemon, but I would not call it a soul. I think you can restore life energy if you eat and rest, at least if you are still alive after the draining. And I thought infinity energy and energy from the ancient weapon was not exactly the same thing. I thought it definitely used the technology of the past to create some kind of eternal energy source. They named it infinity energy after all. They wanted to use the infinity energy for the portal plan, but they don't need it for every portal in general. We had portals like that in Gen 1 to 5 as well, without infinity energy, because the ancient weapon was never created. And I remember them saying they wanted to fire a rocket with infinity energy using keystones, so energy that was created after you Mega Evolve many times is stored in the keystone and can be converted to infinity energy. So you don't exactly have to kill Pokemon for it. The same unconverted energy was used to summon Rayquaza with an asteroid in the past, and with Zinnia and the keystones in the Delta episode. But it would be cool if I think that's just if. For example, Shelly stole the Infinity Energy technology from Devon as well. She could have used it to fill the primal forms with Infinity Energy, to bring them to a new ultimate level. This means the primal forms we know are incomplete because the energy of Hone's core was not enough compared to Hone 3,000 years ago. Shelly would never do that, but really want to see it. But I want to thank you for the idea of the true abilities of the ultimate weapon. I never thought of that, and it really makes sense. I agree with everything else you said, and even though I don't think Devon would kill Pokemon to create Infinity Energy, it's still very frightening. If they continue to research this technology, it will only be a matter of time until they find a way to use Infinity Energy to make someone immortal. They need to be stopped, or they will gain more power and influence than Google and Microsoft could ever dream to have. World domination would be a piece of cake. So, okay, let's go for step by step. First off, yeah, I do actually agree. I wouldn't call it a soul, really. I now see that's actually bioenergy. It's not like to get Infinity Energy from a Pokemon, you just need to kill it, okay? You can extract it without them dying, but you actually still have to extract it from a Pokemon. So it's basically their form of energy, you know? If a Pokemon is drained of all its Infinity Energy, much like if they faint in battle, they faint, you know, they can't go on, they can't battle anymore. So maybe, we still don't know the technology behind healing a Pokemon up. We know some in the anime, at least, you know, sometimes they actually give them berries treatment for this, whereas in the games they sort of just heal them up. We don't really know how that works. We don't know how the Pokemon Center works, Pokemon Center machine rather. But in the anime, for example, they give them berries, sometimes at least. I don't watch the anime too much, but I know sometimes they give them berries to help restore them and heal them, whatever. So maybe berries have a natural energy in them, so as I mentioned earlier, maybe Pokemon can convert that natural energy and, you know, make it into Infinity Energy and restore that energy just like that, okay? So I do agree, you know, it's just like life energy. It's not really like a soul that you can just take away. Infinity Energy and energy from the ancient weapon was not exactly the same thing. I don't know about this, to be honest, because I think it was mentioned, like, if I was mentioned explicitly, but I think it was mentioned that the ultimate weapon used Infinity Energy, okay? So it used the same energy as what Devon is using now. So I think it's mentioned straight out like that. I'm not sure, though. The fact that you can use portals in Gen 1 to 5 without Infinity Energy, that's really just sort of, it's, you know, I have no explanation for that. It's a Pokemon franchise, you know, they can't really explain that themselves, I guess. Maybe it's just using a different type of technology in Gens 1 to 5 than actual Infinity Energy. We don't really know, but that's just sort of a blip, I guess. They can't explain it, I can't explain it either, so... yes, they want to fire a rocket with Infinity Energy using Keystones. Well, it wasn't the Infinity Energy using Keystones because they already had enough stored, but Zinnia was stealing Keystones to help Mega Evolve Rayquaza. So we know something with Keystones and Mega Evolution. Every time you Mega Evolve, you produce Keystone. Every time you Mega Evolve, obviously it takes some energy for the Pokemon to actually Mega Evolve. So they actually release some Infinity Energy when they do it. And this is obviously stored then in your Keystone. We don't know quite why, but we can assume so. But that is that there, and so Zinnia wanted, you know, enough Keystones with some Infinity Energy built up inside, and then she was going to use it to sort of convert it to Rayquaza and, you know, extract it from the Keystones, for example. That was her plan, at least. So when you know, Mega Evolve your Pokemon, the energy, or some of the energy released goes inside the Keystone. So that's that there. Shelly, Shelly / I think it was Tabitha, they both worked for Devon at one point, and then they stole the technology, and this was used to make the Magma or Aqua Suit. And obviously they also knew about the submarine in some sort of capacity at least. So they knew technology, so they took it and they, you know, helped out Team Magma Aqua with it. I don't think using Infinity Energy on a Kyogre or Groudon would actually make them Primal Evolve even further. Saying that there's not enough energy in Hone's core compared to 3,000 years ago, the energy, it comes from the core of the Earth, pretty much. So really, the core of the Earth, over 3,000 years, that's not going to deplete it too much compared to the lifespan of a planet, for example. Even the core of Hone itself, you know, it's not going to deplete it too much. So I really can't see it making a huge amount of difference. Maybe they were a bit more powerful back then, but, you know, it's not going to be a huge amount of difference. And I don't think using Infinity Energy on the Primal, you know, on Kyogre or Groudon will actually do anything, because they use natural energy to Primal Revert rather than Infinity Energy. It's related, but it's not the same. Maybe it's just how Groudon and Kyogre process it, or maybe they actually have to use the core of Hone to actually Primal reverts, they can't actually use any infinity energy. There's no Mega Stone, for example. There's a red and blue orb, which allows them to do it, but that's just containing natural energy, or something like that. We really don't know, guys, but that would be, no, I wouldn't see the infinity energy affecting their primal reversion at all. And yeah, Devon could become a superpower, you know, who knows. We've already spoken about the fact that they probably don't have to kill Pokemon to extract infinity energy. They can simply just hook them up to a machine, possibly, and do it that way. I mean, we see in some of the Pokemon Ranger games, Pokemon are used to, you know, power a compound. I remember playing Pokemon Ranger at some point and releasing some Pikachu that are powering generators, for example, so that's a very big possibility there. A similar method is being used to extract infinity energy in these games. Who knows, though? And we might see, if there are ever any more Kanto remakes, we might see Silphco doing a similar thing, or other big companies and other regions also doing the same thing. But who knows, guys? Who knows, you know, more powerful than Google and Microsoft? I don't know. I don't think they can make anyone immortal with it, because they might not be able to have that much technology, but it's a good idea. It's an interesting idea, at least. Then, Hawker says, could infinity energy be dormant or active in fossil Pokemon? Might be why Devon Corp staff working in reviving fossil Pokemon. Well, I did speak at one point during the video, I believe, about maybe that's how they revive Pokemon from fossils. They use infinity energy on it, inject some infinity energy into this fossil, it has some DNA in it, and this actually helps revive it, because in real life, you know, if we were ever gonna revive not a Pokemon, but a dinosaur from a fossil, we wouldn't be able to, wouldn't be able to just, use a fossil and then there, boom, there's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. The way it'd be done is DNA would be extracted from amber or something like that, and then it would be, okay, well, let's not use T-Rex as an idea. Let's use a mammoth, okay? Mammoths are extinct. Maybe, if they found a mammoth DNA somewhere, the way they would do that is they take it out, and they put it in an elephant egg or something similar to that, and have an elephant give birth to it. And then, or something along those lines. You can't just basically get Pokemon, okay? Whereas in the Pokemon games, you just you get your, obviously it's a Lilip or a Lilip or whatever it is. It's the first stage. It's not like you get a Rampardo straight up, okay? So that might be sort of similar there. But it's no egg, there's no hatching. You just give them the fossil and they revive it from the fossil. Maybe suggest to me that actually the fossil was used in the process, so maybe they just sort of put it in a machine, infinity energy, it floods the machine with infinity energy, and this is then the fossil sort of, it actually turns into a Pokemon straight up there. We don't know, there's no real method, sort of, maybe in the anime there is, but I don't watch the anime, so, but, something along those lines, maybe just use infinity energy on the fossil and then you get your Pokemon coming out from that. Who knows those? But infinity energy being dormant or active in fossil Pokemon, I imagine there's like some amount of infinity energy in a fossil. Just, the extra infinity energy they give it then activates it and sort of boosts it along, I guess, or something along those lines. You guys get the idea. Then, Zakizi116 says, thought. What if, assuming that to make a reference to Black 2, White 2, the story in the Mega Universe is that they wanted to stop the use of infinity energy instead of just freeing Pokemon. But infinity energy is so integrated, haha, see what you did there, has been so integrated into society that no one is willing to phase it out, kind of like petroleum, fossil fuels and junk in real life. Well, I mean, in Hone at least, it seems like the only people that have knowledge of infinity energy are people working at Devon. And even then, maybe only the very high ups or the people doing top secret stuff actually know that it's to do with Pokemon. They might, other people in the company might just think they're just making energy somehow. It's another energy source. They don't know it's actually from Pokemon. So I don't think the public has knowledge yet, at least, that they're actually using Pokemon to get this energy out. But it's a very good idea here actually for the Black-White, at least the Black-White storyline. The fact that instead of just freeing Pokemon because they should be free and they shouldn't be, they shouldn't have trainers and whatnot. Maybe they're actually working to free Pokemon from Devon's grasp or wherever, and maybe you don't actually find this out in the game until maybe towards the end. Who knows? So maybe they actually have some a bit of a stronger idea, or maybe Getsis can use this as sort of an excuse to free Pokemon and then use his power to take over everything or whatever. So maybe he uses that excuse. Maybe in the future people actually in the public know about infinity energy's use, and maybe they're not too fussed with it if they find out if there's a method for extracting it from Pokemon that's not harmful to them or not distressful to them, then obviously people aren't really going to have a problem, are they? But it depends on how it goes down, really. So maybe it's a very good idea though for a future remake of Generation 5. I would love to see that happening. I would love to have that sort of implemented there. It's a brilliant idea. Then, Tony AM says, what I think would be interesting is if Infinity Energy had a connection with not only the certain Mirage spots that could summon legendary Pokemon, but also Hooper. Wouldn't it be interesting if Hooper had its own natural supply or control over Infinity Energy to create Hoop portals and such without having to drain one or more Pokemon until they died? It's a very good idea as well. Hooper has probably got some connection with Infinity Energy as well, yes. Well, what it is, who knows? As we know, energy can't be converted, so Hooper has to use energy to create these portals, these Hoop portals or whatever you want to call them, to transfer Pokemon, okay? So, where does it get its energy from, or what does it get out of it, okay? Maybe the transfer of legendary Pokemon from place to place or from time to time, because we don't even know if Hooper can travel. Hooper might be able to create portals through time and whatnot, rather than just sort of distance. Maybe transporting these legendary Pokemon produces some sort of energy that Hooper can feast off of, and something like that, guys, who knows. But that would be my idea of how Hooper can use Infinity Energy for the portals. Maybe it'll be touched on in the movie that's coming out with Hooper in it, who knows, but it's a possibility in my opinion. But I don't know. But I think Hooper has at least got some connection with Infinity Energy as well, yes. It's very, very likely. Shion Sonozaki says, I think that Infinity Energy is the life force of Pokemon, but not the soul, as we've said already. Pokemon give off energy naturally with no negative side effects. However, when the absorption is raised, it will result in death, such as the ancient super weapon. By its name, it must be a renewable source. If humans were really this cold about the life of Pokemon, why would people care about a few Slowpoke tails or dried up Magikarp? Indeed. I mean, as I said already, the public don't really know about it quite yet, so most likely don't know about it. But, yes, Infinity Energy, it has to be renewable somehow. I mean, it completely almost defeats the point of energy, because energy can't be destroyed or created. So it's not really creating energy, but maybe, you know, Pokemon gets energy. Maybe Pokemon enhance the power of the energy by, you know, maybe when they eat, when they grow, they create Infinity Energy this way. And somehow like that, you know, maybe then it's sort of just more powerful. But yeah, I think, you know, giving it off, not sorry, giving it off naturally, but a way that they can produce it, or, you know, put it into a siphon that's not got a negative side effect on them as a possibility for the future. Slowpoke Tails Magikarp, as I said, you know, the poet didn't know about it really, so you know, if the poet did know about it, they might have a stronger view on it, but they don't, because Devon's kept all hush hush. Kuro Taku 30 says, well, the question is, how much Infinity Energy does one Pokemon have, and if they are trying to breed a Pokemon with a limited supply? Well, as I mentioned already, legendaries probably have more, you know, Infinity Energy might be based on base stats, okay? The higher base stats the Pokemon has, the more Infinity Energy it has, because the more powerful it is, if we assume it's sort of similar to that, okay? So legendaries obviously have a very high, you know, high pool. Maybe Arceus, being the creator of the universe, has an infinite supply of Infinity Energy. Maybe he can actually create it or destroy it, because he is the god of the world. So maybe he can create or destroy energy. I mean, it's a very black spot there, creating, destroying energy, but possibly Arceus could, we don't know. But other legendaries, as I said, they have higher supplies of Infinity Energy, they would give off more. Maybe this is why Team Rocket is constantly trying to capture legendary Pokemon, or other evil teams are trying to control legendary Pokemon, because they have Infinity Energy stores. I mean, we know sometimes it's just because they have more power so they can take over the world, but maybe in the future we can look at them, you know, trying to capture a legendary to actually get just Infinity Energy, if you guys get what I mean there. It's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. Then, the final comment we have here is Gaming Spree 995 said, what about AZ? What about AZ? What made him be alive for 3,000 years? I don't know if they said it in the game, I don't remember. I don't think they said it explicitly in game, but AZ is granted eternal life somehow. There are two ways I can think this is. The first one would either be the eternal weapon, while also granting Floette eternal life, grants him eternal life, because he's obviously around the Infinity Energy, the ultimate weapon when he uses it to restore Floette, because obviously he's got Floette in the machine, but maybe he doesn't anticipate the fact that it's also going to affect him as well, because he's activating the machine or whatever. So maybe the Infinity Energy that's absorbed, or, you know, they wipe the Pokemon out, the Infinity Energy, and then drawn towards the ultimate weapon, it's put in the Floette, yeah. But obviously the fact that he takes in so much and kills so many Pokemon, so he gets so much Infinity Energy, that's what gives Floette the eternal life. maybe, and inversely, he also gets eternal life from it as well, because he's around in the area. So that's option 1. Option 2 is, he is, I think it was lore. I think there's a huge channel called Lore that goes through lore of different games, different franchises, or whatever, very quickly. They did one for X and Y, and it says in the lore, they say something like, AZ, uses the ultimate weapon, gives Float eternal life. Float leaves him though, so AZ then walks into the woods to die because his Pokemon's left him. He doesn't want to be alive anymore. Apparently, this is what the lore says. He goes into the woods to die, and then Xerneas finds him and grants him eternal life as well, sort of as, I guess, a punishment for what he's done, or maybe just as knowing that he's going to be needed in the future. Who knows? But I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know where the information for that came from, so I can't confirm or deny that, but it's very likely that Xerneas did give him eternal life. As we've explained earlier, or as we discussed earlier in the video, Xerneas could well have control over infinity energy and be able to grant it to people and Pokemon, so it's very likely that he could do that as well. Who knows though? But guys, that was the last comment I'm looking at. Nice and long video for you guys here. If you did enjoy the video though, be sure to hit the like button down below and leave your thoughts on anything else I've talked about in this video again, and if there are more comments or more ideas, I could make another follow-up video for the follow-up video. Who knows, guys? But I'll be seeing you next time. I can thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.